Hey y'all, I just got back from Target because I had to pick up some cleaning supplies. Pierre's father, Monsieur Lefleur, killed my roommate. So I've been dealing with that situation. I don't know if you guys knew this, but you know, if there's like, let's say somebody comes into your house and kills your roommate and slits his throat with a big machete. You know, there's nobody who cleans that up. You've just got to do it. I called the cops and the ambulance came and said, well, he's dead. So there's no sense really in you know, we're not a morgue, you know. We're not a, you know, one of those places, so you just have to set up his funeral arrangements. And I was like, listen, I don't know who the hell this, I mean, I know who he is, he's my roommate, but we are really not close. It's kind of not my problem. So they said, okay, well, it's not our problem either. See you later, you know, because they've always got some junkie overdosing that they've got to take care of, I guess. So they lickety split out of there, and the cops were like, okay, well, it looks like you got this under control, so see you later, give us a call if he comes back. So I was like, you don't, you know, are you gonna take him? And he's like, no, we're not a morgue, like the other guy said. So I mean, I guess I don't have, you know, I have Windex. I have like, actually, this probably, maybe I shouldn't mention it because it's kind of an ad, but there's this stuff called Barkeeper's Friend. I saw it on Reddit. It works very well. It cleaned my shower really well, but it's not really good for basically, you fucking dumbass! It cleaned the shower really well. It's really good for porcelain and things, but my roommate, you know, was his throat. Okay, so I'm sorry, I realized I didn't even explain the situation. Pierre's dad, Monsieur Lefleur, Pierre had kind of, when we were starting to get physically intimate, he said, as a joke, kind of, he was like, well, you got to be careful because my dad might try to kill you, you know. And so I was like, oh, you know, okay. My roommate is also a bald guy with no eyebrows. So, which was kind of a complete coincidence because he already was bald, but the no eyebrows thing actually was because the IRS is currently after me for, I owe them like $50,000. So they were, that between that and the FBI, people keep showing up to my house with some kind of problem that I really don't want to deal with. You know, it's like these people just expect you to you know, it's like, well, this is, if it's not really a good time for you, it doesn't matter. You've got to be on their terms, you know? So they'll show up at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, and it's like, I'm doing stuff. I'm working. I'm a content creator. I've got to film. So, you know, and I thought about maybe leaving the country, but with all this stuff with Trump, I don't know if that's such a good idea. I don't, because I wouldn't, you know, I have had people tell me that I do look kind of ethnic, so I just would, but that would be a disaster if I got, you know, Border Patrol, you know, if they pulled up my YouTube and my Twitter, they'd be like, well, you're a terrorist, you know, and then that's a whole other thing. So I said, well, I know. I had this wig from the Jesus bit. So I said, wow, that's perfect. I can just wear that around town. Which I also like to do because, you know, if people recognize me in public, I don't like all that. So So I put on the wig, and that sort of helps with. Sorry, did I mention I took fentanyl? I took a little bit of fentanyl. I can't remember if I mentioned that. So that's why I'm kind of a little bit loopy-doopy. But I started wearing the wig around town because I was sick of getting recognized, and then I said, okay, well, I can just wear that all the time, anytime I leave the house or if somebody knocks at the door, because, you know, bald guy is sort of my number one characteristic. You know, it's a pretty distinct look. So I don't really have a very close relationship with my roommate, but he is very susceptible to being manipulated because he's very insecure, and honestly, I think he would jump off a bridge if I said that it would make him seem like a more pleasant person. And that's always so interesting. You know, you would really be surprised if you're just willing to be, not mean, you know, but if you go up to most people in your personal life and you say, like, hey, you know, I just want to be honest, you're really not very attractive physically or emotionally. And then you say, so for instance, what I did with him was I said, hey, you know, I honestly don't think you're very physically attractive. And that probably explains why you haven't been getting hinge matches and you haven't been, you know, it hasn't been working out. What I think you should do is shave your eyebrows. Because that's really trendy now, partly because of me. I think that I have a lot to do with that, honestly. But I said, yeah, you know, I think you should just give that a shot because I really think that would help you a lot. Total lie, you know. But he, you know, if you say that kind of stuff to people, they'll do it. You'd be surprised how many people, 9 out of 10 times, they'll be like, okay, I'll do whatever you say. You know, which I just always think is funny. I mean, it's really not hard to manipulate people. You know, the key also is to be nice 75% of the time. Because that way you can gaslight them into thinking that you're actually trying to help them. So if you're just an asshole 100% of the time, they're just going to cut you out of their life. But if you're just a good guy and you're nice most of the time, and then that's really the sweet spot, because then maybe 10 to 20% of the time you can you know, kind of do stuff, and they'll be a lot more malleable, you know. So that's sort of what I did to get my roommate to shave his eyebrows, and he looks. You know, I know that I probably shouldn't throw stones if I live in a glass house, but he looks like a crazy. You know, he just does not. So I feel bad for him in that respect because I really made all his problems 10 times worse. But oh yeah, I forgot he's dead. Yeah, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Wow, that's funny. I totally forgot. Wow. Well, all right. Now I'm remembering sort of that I've got to figure out how to get the fucking, you know, clean up all this stuff, and then I've got to figure out how to. This shouldn't even be my problem. Honestly, I think that what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean it up and just not worry about it. You know, it's kind of like my whack-a-mole strategy. Because I don't feel like having to go through his phone and try to figure out what family members to contact. And, you know, I wasn't close with him like that. So I think I'm just going to leave him, or not leave him, because it's going to smell bad, but I'll just clean him up and then put him in the backyard, I guess. I have these nice vacuum seal bags so that you can get the really jumbo ones. And they're really great. They're really great for smells and just keeping compact storage. So I think I can put solids in there, and then the liquids I can put, just dump them down the storm drain or something. Nobody's gonna care. I've done a lot of dry runs. funny enough, actually, where I, just for fun, will put a body in a garbage bag and carry it around town, you know, put it in my trunk and take it back out and all that. Nobody has ever said anything. Nobody's even looked twice. The cops don't care, you know. So that's another thing. You would really be surprised how easy it is to get away with stuff like that too. If you live in a big city, if you live in a city like LA, you can do anything. It's a lawless land. I would not try that. Like, for instance, we all saw how it worked out in my hometown, Bel Air, Maryland. The second anything happened there, everybody was all up my fucking ass, you know. So if you live in a town where the cops don't have anything better to do, then maybe you know, be on your best behavior. But yeah, New York City, LA. If you live in a big city, here, I'll put it this way. If you have, I have never, I really shouldn't say this, knock on wood, but the entire time that I've lived in LA, I have never been pulled over for a traffic anything. I've never been pulled over once. The only times I've been pulled over are, you know, if I leave the city outskirts, then usually, cause it sort of makes you have sorry, I made a wrong turn somewhere and now I don't even know where the hell I am. That always happens. Well, that's a nice house. Well, I'm definitely in the wrong place now. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, because, you know, I would be able to just sort of, you can just kind of do anything. Because there's no cops who are going to give this shit. So I'm always just like, oh yeah, whatever, I make the rules. And then as soon as I leave the outskirts or I go anywhere else, you know, then all of a sudden, wee woo, wee woo. And they're like, why were you going 120 miles an hour and driving in the middle of the lane? And I was like, well, you got me, you know. Which my lawyer actually said you really shouldn't. I always, as soon as a cop starts talking to me, to break the ice, normally that was kind of my icebreaker move, was I'd put my hands up and be like, you got me, you know, even if I, you know, and because I just thought that was funny. But my lawyer said you really shouldn't do that because then you're basically just admitting guilt to anything they could possibly think that, you know, accuse you of. So I was like, yeah, but it's a joke. Isn't there like a joke clause? And he was like, no. I bet I could get off though. If it really came, push really came to shove, I think that would be fine. I could be like, yeah, I was joking around. I'm a pretty charismatic guy, you know, so I could make that go away. But anyway, yeah, so today, I was running all around town trying to film a fun Jesus project, you know, that's a little bit more elaborate with the editing and the filming. So I was working on that stuff today, and I came home, and you know, I was sort of just sitting doing my thing. All of a sudden, there's a knock at the door, and I'm like, whatever, you know, Kyle will get it. Then I start hearing raised voices. So I go out, and there's a guy with a handlebar mustache and a big machete. And he's sort of like, you know, which one of you is Dan? I guess I should do a French accent. We was the Okay, well, that's probably not gonna work. But he said, which one of you is Dan? And I, you know, quick thinking, I'm very quick on my feet. I said, oh, that's Dan right there. And I had my wig on because I was doing something, and so I had already had the wig on. So I said, yeah, that's him. And Kyle was like, what? No, whoa. So Monsieur Lafaud just slit his throat. made very quick work of it. He just left after that. He barely said 2 words. So, you know, shit happens, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I feel bad, but there's no sense in going, I can't change the past, you know. It's done. So, well, all right. I've just got to fucking deal with this whole situation now. So, thanks for listening to me vent, I guess. See you later.